Good day, Junior Tuckies, and anybody who might be tuning in. Thank you so much for joining us for an English home language lesson today for grade 8. Today we are going to be focusing on parts of speech, and we're going to take the magnifying glass and zoom in on some verbs and conjunctions, which will form a part of your language paper. I am going to be your teacher for this lesson. My name is Miss Langtree, and I hope that you enjoy watching this lesson as much as I have enjoyed making it for you. Right, so let's dive right into it. What is a verb? I'm sure a lot of us associate the word verb with action because the verb is a word that indicates an action. Okay, I remember in primary school, a lot of teachers say that the verb is the doing word. Okay, so to speak. And the reason why teachers say that is because if someone was to say, "What are you doing over the holiday?" you'll probably start to list verbs. You'll probably start to say what you were doing over the holiday. Okay, and adding more detail to that. So let's take a look at the example over here where I'm circling. It says, "What is Christelle doing over the holiday?" Well, she is reading in the morning, running in the afternoon, and drinking tea in the evening. Hey, that sounds like a wonderful time. Okay, now for example, they might say, okay, identify the verbs in the sentence. This would be the correct answer over here. Most of it is pretty standard, right? Drinking is a doing word. It's something that you do. You drink the tea. The tea is the noun in this case because it is the physical object. Running is also definitely a doing word. I am running to the store. Okay, it's definitely something that we do. Then this is where it starts to get a little bit high school level, if I could say that, which is fine. We are all on high school level after all, so we can handle it. Is reading. Have a look where I'm circling or putting a box around. Is reading, okay, is also considered a verb. Now, we always say a verb is a word that's a doing word. We always say the singular. We say a verb is a word. But what we need you to understand is that is reading, okay, even though it is two words, I'm at the bottom here, even though it is two words, okay, it is considered the verb because this is the part of the sentence that is still indicating to us what is going on, what this person is doing. Okay, so without it, so let's read. Well, the sentence, she reading in the morning, is not considered a full sentence. The verb reading needs assistance. Do you see that? She reading in the morning. That is not proper English. Okay, there is definitely something missing from that sentence. Okay, so we add a helping word. Okay, a small helping word to help us along. Okay, and therefore is reading is considered the verb because that is what makes the sentence full. And it is also the verb, the doing words of the sentence. So today we are going to be looking at essentially non-finite verbs, auxiliary verbs, and finite verbs. So we're only looking at those three categories today. If you want a more detailed video, Miss Bredekamp has a video out on verbs for grade 9. But because this is grade 8, we're just going to focus on knowing the difference between a non-finite and a finite verb. So, when we look at non-finite verbs, guys, we note that these are verbs. You can definitely tell that they are doing words, so to speak, or they are in action, but they need a bit of assistance in order to make sure that the sentence is full and that tense and things like that are being stated in the sentence. So let's have a look at the notes. Let us focus on the sentence, she reading in the morning. We're going to stick with the same sentence just to keep the wavelength the same. Okay, here we have a non-finite verb, reading. Okay, in this context, this verb does not make the sentence complete. It is a doing word that needs assistance in order to become finite. So just think about that for a second. Okay, so let's have a look at the sentence. The sentence now does also not belong or commit to a tense, past, present, or future tense. And what we mean by this is, take a look at this example. She was reading in the morning. That's past tense suddenly, and the sentence is full. She is reading in the morning. That is suddenly present tense. She's doing it in this moment. She will be reading in the morning. Okay, so because the word reading itself doesn't have an assistant, okay, that it suddenly becomes non-finite because it's not complete. Think non-finite, non-complete. Although that's not a word, it's actually incomplete. But okay, it's not ready yet. It needs a little extra. Okay, that is what a non-finite verb is. Okay, so in the previous slide, we noted that non-finite verbs do not adjust themselves to match the tense of the sentence. Okay, and now we're going to take a look at how non-finite verbs do not actually match the subject of the sentence either. Now, when we are talking about the subject, remember the sentence, the boy kicked the ball. What is the subject of that sentence? An English teacher's favorite sentence. Okay? Remember that the subject is the noun or the pronoun that is actually doing the action, okay, who's actually performing the verb, okay? And so that's the subject, and the object of the sentence is it often is an object, a physical object, okay? But it is the noun or the pronoun which is receiving the action. So in the sentence, the boy kicked the ball could be considered the object, okay, because it is the one that is receiving this kick, okay, and the boy is considered the subject because that is the noun, that is the thing, okay. I hate saying thing, but you know, noun, and that is the association, is the noun which is performing the action. So the boy is therefore the subject. Okay, so we're bearing that in mind. Okay, let's see how a non-finite verb reacts to the subject of a sentence. Okay, so in the example, she reading in the morning, I'm reading here. Reading does not shift to match the subject. For example, she is reading. But then, say for example, it's a group of people or it's someone who just that is non-binary, okay? They are reading. Okay? Do you see how suddenly the verb will shift to match, okay, the subject when it is finite? So are reading, is reading, that's correct. Okay? But when it's just reading by itself, when it's just the non-finite verb, it's just she reading, they reading. It's not adjusting at all to the circumstances. Okay. Or do I say circumstances? No, we're in South Africa, so circumstances. Okay, so she will be reading. Okay, so then again, it's now matching the tense and it's matching the subject. Okay, he is reading. All right, so here we see that non-finite verbs really are kind of that base word that just it needs assistance, okay? But luckily, assistance is only a phone call away, okay? And it is in the form of auxiliary verbs, okay? AKA helping verbs, and they look like this: is, are, will be, were, okay? These are all examples of auxiliary verbs, also known as helping verbs. We can add an auxiliary verb to a non-finite verb to make it finite. Okay? So you've got flour, you've got eggs, and together you make a cake. That's basically the idea. All right. So basically, one auxiliary verb plus one non-finite verb equals a finite verb. And that is why it's so important in a test to note what is being underlined if they want you to identify a word or a part of speech in a test. You need to note what is underlined, because if just reading was underlined, then it's a non-finite verb. If just is highlighted or underlined, that means that that's an auxiliary verb. But when it's is reading that is underlined, it suddenly becomes a finite verb. And that is why in grade 8 we just focus on this, because this is quite a foreign and interesting concept to wrap your head around. Okay, but say you get a sentence and you can tell a verb is underlined, and you see, let's just focus our attention to the bottom here, where the highlighted section. Okay, do you see how, when alone, non-finite verbs do not adjust to the subject and the tense? So if you see a verb that's not adjusting at all to how the sentence is read, if you change it to past tense, if you change it to present tense, and if you change it to future tense, if the verb stays exactly the same, you might have a non-finite verb on your hands. Okay, note where the subject of the sentence is and see if you change the subject, from she to they, does this verb change at all? Okay, and then you can tell if it's finite or non-finite. Okay. Right, let's take a look at auxiliary verbs for a second here. Okay, in terms of the auxiliary verb's purpose, it's to make the sentence whole again. We can make you whole again. I'm sure you're too young for that song. Anyway, let's look at the example here. We studying. Can you tell that that is not a full sentence yet? Okay, it needs an auxiliary verb. We studying. We will. What's the tense? What's the subject? What's going on? Okay, this can be changed to we are studying. So do you see how one non-finite verb, which is very sad because it's incomplete, plus one auxiliary verb, okay, magically makes it all become one finite verb. Okay, so in the sentence we are studying, the finite verb here is are studying. Right. Auxiliary verbs magically make the sentence complete and the verb finite. They often reveal whether the sentence is in past or present tense too. Okay, now we're going to take a quick look at finite verbs. Basically, they are the main verb of a sentence. So, if there are many verbs in a sentence, you need to find the main verb. Okay, and there's ways in which we can go about it. Okay, does this verb that I am dealing with, hang on, let me change the color to yellow. Okay, does this verb that's underlined in the sentence, say for example, ask. Oh, now it's yellow and you can't see, but ask, A-S-K. Okay, so I'm looking at the sentence and I'm saying, does it show tense? It's not asked, which would be past tense. It's not will ask. Okay, so it is telling me the tense. Okay, and is there an agreement with the subject? Okay, so she asked, she asks, they ask. That's both present tense. Okay, so is there an agreement with the subject? Okay, we need to take a look, and that's why when you get given these sentences, you need to change them. Okay, so yes, you get a full sentence in the test, and then is running is underlined. You now need to take that sentence and you need to put it into past tense in your head. Then you need to put it into future tense in your head. Okay, and then you need to change the subject. Okay, so if it's Lillian kicked the ball, you need to say the boys kicked the ball, and then note, okay, I see. This verb does match the subject. Okay, even if I change the subject, and you need to see if it adjusts accordingly, and then you can tell if it's a finite verb. Okay, it can be more than one word. For example, we study, we will study, we studied. Okay, it can be more than one word. Just because it's called a finite verb doesn't mean that it's only one word in a sentence. Something else, guys, to note about non-finite verbs is not only does it not show tense, but it can't stand alone as the main verb in a sentence. It physically cannot stand alone. It needs assistance of some kind. Okay, here is a picture of a very cute child who is cleaning a car. Okay, and let's have a look at the example sentence. It says here, my brother cleaning his car. My brother cleaning his car. If I was to change the subject, okay, so now I'm trying to figure out cleaning, I can tell is the doing word, okay? My brother is the subject. So let's change the subject to they. They cleaning their car. They cleaning. Cleaning doesn't change, does it? Okay, now let's change the tense. Okay, so past tense. My brother cleaning his car. Because it needs to be what? It needs to be, there's something that's missing. There's something that's missing. Can you think of what it is? Okay, we need a helping verb to make the sentence correct. We need an auxiliary verb. Don't say helping word in the test, okay? Say auxiliary verb. There is a way to make this verb finite. All right, we could say, okay, well, I would love to hear your answers truly, but I'm just going to tell you. Okay, my brother was cleaning his car. My brother will be cleaning his car. My brother is cleaning his car. If I was to change the subject, then with these added in, okay, so they were cleaning their car. They were, do you see? So it would adjust. The auxiliary verb would adjust to match the subject. Okay, and the finite verb will adjust to the tense as well. Okay, do you see that? I hope so. Let me know if you have any questions. All right. Okay, one last verb. I know I said I was only going to do 3 types of verbs today, but I couldn't resist because this is my favorite type of verb. It's called an infinitive, and it's to plus the verb. Mom, I am going to play. I am going to scream. If you're a toddler, or perhaps not, but if you are screaming a lot lately, perhaps you should do some anger management. I'm going to, what else are you going to do to laugh? Today I'm going to smile. Or be happy. Today I'm going to be happy. Okay, so to plus any verb of your choosing is called an infinitive. Okay, so the reason I added this as well is because to is often considered an auxiliary verb, and it's grouped together with an auxiliary verb because I am going to play is a full sentence. Okay, and to play, that's the finite verb. Okay, so I understand why someone would therefore write in a test, oh, this is a finite verb. So just be careful. To is in a category of its own. It's in its own lane. Okay, so let's have a look here. Infinitives. To plus the verb. For example, he asks us to study. Okay, the principal will like to meet with you in his office. To meet. I used to like playing music on record players. Okay, actually, to like and playing are separate, I'd say. To like is the finite verb, and playing is actually non-finite. But if it underlined all 3 of these words, then you would say that it would be a finite verb. But because it's to plus like here, if just to like was underlined, you would then say, okay, we are dealing with an infinitive. I like to eat at 12 p.m. Okay, so that is called an infinitive. The reason I remember infinitives is because of Buzz Lightyear over here. I'm not sure if any of you guys have watched Toy Story, but Toy Story is a wonderful film, and it's got someone named Buzz Lightyear, and he has a brilliant catchphrase. And his catchphrase, because he's an astronaut, is to infinity and beyond. Infinity means he's going into space, which is infinite. So to plus infinity, infinitive, okay, and beyond. That's how I remember infinitives. I hope that that is helpful to you. Right, now let's move on to our second part of speech for today, which are conjunctions. And they are words that join sentences together. So a conjunction, I always think of a T-junction when you're driving in the road. Okay, here's the road we're driving on, it's green. Just go with it. And then we get to a stop street. Okay, and then there's a road coming this way as well. Sorry, I need a cough. Let me just pause this thing because sorry about that. Okay, so there is a T-junction and these two roads merge together, okay, and they become sort of one road in the middle, okay? That is what a T-junction is called. Do you see how it looks like a T? Okay, so I always think of conjunctions, like T-junctions, they merge two sentences together. Oof, what a mess. Let me delete. Okay, that looks less messy. Okay, let's carry on. Okay, spot the joining word in these sentences. I'm over here, guys. The desk is messy and the student does not seem to notice. Okay, don't worry. Cleanliness and things sometimes come in time with certain people. Some people are born cleanly, well, clean, and others, that skill develops. But anyway, this teacher is upset and they are saying the desk is messy and the student does not seem to notice. Can we try and separate these two sentences first of all? Okay, because now we know that these sentences have been joined together. So would you agree when I say the desk is messy is actually a sentence on its own? The desk is messy. Okay, that's a full sentence. It's got a subject, doesn't it? The desk. It's got a verb. Okay, so it's got a finite verb even. Okay, so that's a full sentence on its own. And the student does not seem to notice. Could we agree? The student does not seem to notice is a sentence on its own. The student doesn't seem to notice. Definitely. Okay, it's got a subject. Okay, and it's also got to notice. To plus a verb. What's that called, guys? An infinitive. Good job. Okay. So we have our two sentences here. Okay. So the joining word is and. The desk is messy and the student does not seem to notice. Okay. Let's look at the next sentence over here. Because the seas are rough, the sailor is tough and experienced for the next pursuit. Okay. So the seas are rough. That is most definitely a sentence on its own. Okay, the seas are rough. The sailor is tough and experienced for the next pursuit. The sailor, tailors are people who fix your clothing. But anyway, a sailor is a person who sails along across the sea. So the sailor is tough can be a sentence on its own. Experienced for the next pursuit? Not really. Who is experienced? We need a subject. Okay, but because of the joining word here, it's fine. The sailor is tough and experienced for the next pursuit. Okay, that's fine. That separates those sentences quite nicely. But here we go. Because the seas are rough, the sailor is tough. Okay, because is actually the joining word. Even though it starts at the beginning, do you see how the comma follows the first sentence? So if you ever use a joining word at the beginning of a sentence, okay, make sure that you are still separating two full sentences from each other, as we see here. Okay, sorry, I'm making a mess, aren't I? Where's my eraser? Okay, let's just go. There we go. Okay, so because the seas are rough, comma, the sailor is tough. I'm just going to stop it there. Okay, do you see how the two sentences are still separated, but they're forming one sentence because we do have a joining word here, but it's at the beginning. So we just use the comma as a placemat to say listen, we are merging these two sentences together, but the conjunction is at the beginning. And it does have a certain effect, okay? Because the seas are rough, the sailor is tough. Okay, it does have an impact as opposed to the seas. No, the sailor is tough because the seas are rough. Okay, so it's just your writing license. You are allowed to put a conjunction at the beginning of the sentence. Okay, let's have a look at the bottom over here. Look at these two separate sentences. The seas are rough. The sailor is tough and experienced for the next pursuit. Okay. These two sentences separately are complete. They therefore require a coordinating conjunction. Okay. Yes. The seas are rough. The sailor is tough and experienced for the next pursuit. That's actually, I'm not sure if I agree with that, guys, because this sentence is actually reliant on this one. The seas are rough because, okay, if you want this to be a sentence that is this part of the sentence is the aftermath or kind of the reaction to the first sentence, then you can actually just use a subordinating conjunction. But if you want to say the seas are rough, but the sailor is tough, then that will give it a more balanced sentence. Hang on, let's move on to the next slide and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Okay, guys, this is what I'm talking about here. What is a coordinating conjunction and a subordinating conjunction? Don't worry, there's only two categories. Okay, now the most popular anagram that teachers use, or should I say an acronym, is called boys. What is wrong with me? Okay, it's called fanboys. All right, and it's over here, fanboys. Now, an acronym is when the first letters of words come together to form a word. Fanboys. Okay, so for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. All right, those were widely agreed upon to be the coordinating conjunctions. The conjunctions which are used to separate sentences of equal significance. Okay, so that means that I like bacon and eggs. Okay, you're not choosing eggs over bacon. You're not choosing bacon over eggs. I like bacon and eggs. Both are of equal importance to this person. So that is what defines a coordinating conjunction. Okay. One way to remember the conjunctions is through this abbreviation, okay? But remember that, yes, it's universally accepted that for and so are coordinating conjunctions, but certain schools do not accept for or so as coordinating conjunctions. So you need to check with your teacher whether or not she'd accept for or so as coordinating conjunctions. But as far as the CAPS document goes, it's still okay. Okay, for and so can still be considered coordinating conjunctions. Another reason why it's important to remember fanboys, okay, is because coordinating conjunctions can actually be an excuse to use a comma to separate two full sentences. And I know for a fact that teachers have told you time and time again, do not use a comma to separate two full sentences. It will be marked wrong, and they are absolutely correct. You should use either a semicolon or a full stop. But if you use a fanboys, okay, coordinating conjunction, you are allowed to. Let's have a look at these sentences here. They heard the news on the radio, comma, but did not believe it. Okay, let's have a look at another one. Everything was changing, comma, so they embraced what they saw. Okay, do you see how that actually does look right? And perhaps you've seen that when reading. I'd like to think so. All right, Remember, this is not allowed with all with all conjunctions, only coordinating conjunctions. Okay, so we now understand coordinating conjunctions a little bit better. Let's see how we do with subordinating conjunctions, which are all the other joining words that you get. Okay, the way I like to remember subordinating conjunctions is through the word substandard. Okay, so if someone gives you work, say for example, you have a partner, and now you are used to getting 80%, and you're with a partner who perhaps just kind of skirts by, and he produces, or they produce their work and they give it to you, and it's substandard. It means that here is the standard, okay, the little blue line I'm making here, and this is where it kind of lands. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of a 60% effort, whereas you're used to it being 80, so it's below standard. Okay, another way in which we can remember subordinating conjunctions is through the word substation. So think of your electricity stations in your town. Chances are, if you live in Johannesburg, they'll have lots of power stations. And then what they'll also have are substations, which kind of just feed into your community. So you've got your main station. I can't draw, can I? And then you've got your substation. So kind of smaller station, or kind of side station. Okay, so subordinating, in terms of its definition, means it separates the main idea from a less important idea, from a substandard kind of concept, for a kind of an assisting or a supporting idea, but not the main idea. So if you see a conjunction being used to separate two sentences, it means that one of the sentences, okay, is the main idea and the other sentence is a supporting one, if there's no fanboys to be seen. Okay, so let's read what the slide says, shall we? Okay, these words link a main idea to a supporting idea. The supporting idea, or the substandard idea, or the less important idea, needs the main point in order to make sense. It's added. This is important. It's kind of like an addition or a reaction to the main sentence. Subordinating conjunctions like link a main idea to an idea that is independent. Okay. These include since, because, although, if, after, while, before, until, unless, however, therefore, and moreover. Okay, we will dive in the question and answer section. We'll dive more into the meaning of all of these words. Okay, but for now, those are words that we need to write down. Okay, and we need to try and use these in sentences. Okay, so for example, I ate my sandwich because I had no breakfast earlier. Okay, what here is the main sentence, and what here is the sentence that supports the main idea and adds to the main idea, but not necessarily is the main idea. Okay, the main idea is I ate my sandwich now. Right, I ate my sandwich now. And then this is the reasoning behind it, because I had no breakfast earlier. Okay. Although I love drawing, there is something special about painting. Okay, I would say that the main sentence here is there is something special about painting. Although I love drawing, so even though I do love drawing, there's something special about painting. Often the subordinating conjunction goes right before the sentence that is less important. Okay, often, often, often. Not always, but very often. Okay, so here we've got the subordinating conjunction. Okay, and yeah, do you see how I love drawing sort of does fall away and become the supporting idea? I was feeling warm, so I swam in the river. Okay, so the main thing was I was feeling warm. Okay, is the main idea. So what was the reaction? I swam in the river. Okay, do you see? Oh, but so can be a coordinating conjunction. It depends on the school you're at. When it comes to the matric exams, you can say that so is a coordinating conjunction because it's fanboys with an S at the end. Okay, so I swam in the river. I was feeling warm. If you put so in the middle, it kind of means that this is a well balanced sentence, that one part of the sentence is not more important than the other part of the sentence. But that's not the case with subordinating conjunctions. I do hope that you understand. Okay, so let's have a look at the subordinating conjunctions in a bit more detail. Okay, so because you see a subordinating conjunction like the list from the previous slide, you would immediately note, okay, one part of the sentence is a consequence of the other part, or kind of an afterthought, or the less important section for the other part of the sentence. It is a reaction. Okay, so let's have a look at these examples and see if you can tell where the subordinating conjunction is, sorry, and then B, which is the main sentence and which is the sentence that is reliant or dependent, okay, or a reaction of the main sentence. While I was studying, my friends would visit me often. Okay, this could also read, my friends would visit me often while I was studying. Okay, but because we put it here at the beginning of the sentence, we can note, okay, that there is a comma over there. Okay, while I was studying is the dependent clause because it doesn't make sense without the other part of the sentence. Oh, well, that is always quite useful, actually. But also, if you took the subordinating conjunction away, it would still make sense. I was studying. Okay, but because while is found before I was studying, we can assume that that is the kind of dependent, less important section. The main section is my friends would visit me often. Okay, since I'm late for work, my boss will yell at me. Okay, my boss will yell at me is the main part of the sentence. Okay, this is the reasoning why. Okay, so it is dependent in that sense, but this is definitely the main section. My boss will yell at me since I'm late for work. Since kind of implies that this is the reasoning behind the main sentence, or kind of it's adding to the main sentence, but it's not as important as the fact that my boss will yell at me. Oh no. Okay, let's look at the last one. The dominoes fell because I pushed them. I'm not sure if any of you play with dominoes anymore. Is it an old school game? Perhaps, but they're really, really enjoyable, and the more dominoes you have, the better. And basically, you push them, and it has a ripple effect because one will fall onto the other one, and then they all fall down. Okay, so the dominoes fell. Why did the dominoes fall? Because I pushed them. So here we see because. Because indicates that there's reasoning behind it. Because indicates that sort of, yeah, the answer as to why this is happening is about to be presented. So the dominoes fell is the main section. The dominoes fell. Okay, why? That because I pushed them, it's adding. Okay, it's adding to that sentence, but it's not equal because it's not using a coordinating conjunction. The dominoes fell, but I pushed them would indicate that those sentences are both main sentences. But yeah, that's why it's so important to know fanboys. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Because if you see those anywhere, that means that you are dealing with a coordinating conjunction and different rules apply. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time today. This is the references that I used. Please note that, yes, we will be unpacking the meaning of the different conjunctions and how to use them in sentences in the question and answer section, which will be coming up. We've also got videos on adverbs, prepositions, ideophones, aka onomatopoeia, and interjections as well. Oh, and prepositions. So much to do. So make sure that you tune in. Thank you very much.